We are building up to NAB. NAB is now about 3 weeks away. If you are not planning to come to this year's NAB, find a way because Las Vegas is booming with news. There are so many already pre-announcements, and there's just a lot of buzz coming into this show. So, with that, I have to say, I am so excited to be with our next guest. And I am talking today with Sarah Walter from Akamai. So, first of all, I want to say, Sarah, it's your first time on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's awesome. You know, our two companies have been working together for a while. You and I are on calls quite frequently, so a lot going on, and we just are really excited for the innovations that we've come together to bring to the market, and that's what we're here to talk about. So, why don't you introduce yourself, tell the listeners what you do at Akamai, and let's jump right into what we've been cooking up between our two companies.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with Akamai for about a year and a half as a product manager. I work on our connected cloud, specifically on our sort of infrastructure as a service side, working on many different computing products. And most recently, I've had the pleasure to work on delivering NetInt VPUs on the cloud, which has been a lot of fun and a really unique challenge since this is kind of the first time this has been done before.
That's right. We're excited because as the VPU ecosystem has been developing quite nicely, it's known, even if we can't disclose logos on our website, there's some very large, very important hyperscalers and media and entertainment companies that use NetInt VPUs. But still, it was until now sort of limited to the companies who hosted their own infrastructure, had the resources to deploy hardware in data centers. And for everyone else who's basically operating on public cloud or maybe third party services, they were sort of in a way locked out of using VPUs simply because the hardware wasn't available. So I think a great place to start is, why don't you talk about what Akamai is doing with the connected cloud, and and that'll lead perfectly into why you even chose to deploy VPUs and where the opportunity is.
Absolutely. Yeah. So as you mentioned, Mark, cloud computing is something relatively new to Akamai, which has kind of traditionally been thought of as a CDN provider. But recently, with the acquisition of Linode, we have started offering kind of a full continuum of compute. And we think of our compute infrastructure as sort of having three tiers: a core, distributed, and edge. So you can design your custom deployment and leverage different types of locations and cloud computing services. And that allows you to scale your streaming application, increase your performance, deploy infrastructure as close to end users as possible for those hyper local events. And for now, we've introduced VPUs as a part of our core infrastructure. I'll focus on that side a little bit specifically. And we find that the core is typically where the majority of our customers' heavy duty or resource demanding infrastructure lives. But I could also see these expanding to distributed sites in the future.
Yeah, I like the fact that you're able, being a CDN, it's a very natural and a completely possible evolution to go from the core, to kind of, one ring out and then all the way to the edge. I think that's just super key because in traditional cloud infrastructures, you're stuck in the core, right?
Right.
And there's certainly workloads that's completely acceptable, and that fits both from a technical, architectural, and even a cost reason. But as the edge becomes more important, why not do your processing on the CDN, in the CDN, where all your bits are being distributed, and then eventually all the way at the edge. So I think that's really, really important to point out there.
I agree. And I think that that speaks to the value really of having VPUs in the cloud generally. Traditionally, and I think some of what drove us to really want to bring NetInt into the connected cloud was we kept hearing from our partners and our media customers that they were adopting NetInt VPUs on-prem. But in doing so, that they were limited to their on-prem locations and they were looking for additional deployment options. We realized in those conversations that we had a ton of mutual customers between NetInt and Akamai, and a really great opportunity to make VPUs available as an alternative deployment option for those customers, and to just introduce them to our other customers who haven't had access in the past. And generally, Akamai is unique in how we're able, I think, to make the cloud work better for our media customers. There's a long history there of kind of evolving with the media customers, first as a CDN provider and then into security and now with the cloud. And we're really looking to develop and build on that history as a CDN, but to provide more of the sort of essential services and infrastructure that can serve media customers and allow them to really innovate and excel in the industry. And then kind of my favorite point of this is, unlike many of the hyperscalers, we're not competing with those customers. There's no Akamai Studios or any other business venture where we're looking to create content or host our own media streaming application. We're solely looking to do kind of what we do well and support the needs of our media customers. And as we've seen the interests of companies like AWS begin to vary more and more over the years, we want to lean in on what's important to our core customers, and support that ecosystem.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great partnership. Perfect.
It is. Really excited about it. Some of what really I think also appealed to us about the NetInt T1U and the Quadra cards in general were just, these are really great and dedicated for transcoding. We've seen so many endorsements from media customers specifically for these cards, for everything from their stream density to the performance improvements they've been able to achieve using NetInt. And things like support for AV1 encoding that you just can't find in like a typical CPU-based transcoding environment.
Yeah, if I can jump in here and just make a comment, there's a very natural progression when you bring a new architecture to market, and for us that was ASICs, leveraging ASICs, and then creating the category of VPU, so video processing unit. We had to go through a couple years of quite intense scrutiny, evaluation. These media customers that that you're referencing, some of them really put us through the ringer. In fact, really all of them did. Everybody has their own priorities as to what they care about. But make no mistake, quality is front and center. They still need, bit rate, performance, compactness. So quality, but at, really high bit rates also is not usable. And so we had to work very closely on that. And, we're really happy to be joining, with Akamai as a best of breed delivery platform. So just as, we, we're very proud of our video quality and the fact that so much of the media and entertainment industry, has put, so we say, their stamp of approval on it. But to then partner with the best of breed CDN so that that very high video quality is also delivered, seamlessly, flawlessly to the user is just really It's what the market and the industry needs. Because if you have one or the other, then the consumer experience suffers. So we have both. Really
Right.
excited about that.
They really see, I think, that focused development in what you see here, right? The ability to
Mhm.
do so much on the card itself with
Mhm.
minimal offload is really the output of all of that, dedicated development and research into transcoding and applying that into developing these ASICs. So I'm excited to share what will be available on the connected cloud for our customers to
Mhm.
provision. These are the actual plans that are currently available to our beta customers and will be made generally available as of March 31st. As you can see, we're currently offering 3 different sizes, which have either 1 or 2 dedicated Quadra T1U VPUs attached to the VM. So these virtual machines range from 8 to 12 vCPU. They start at 16 gigabytes of RAM, and our introductory plan starts at $280 per month, or only 42 cents per hour.
It's incredible. So I have to jump in here. And I'm going to tell a little story. Um, so it's no secret that dedicated hardware, particularly ASICs, are absolutely the highest performant, lowest cost way to do video intensive operations like encoding. So I think anybody who's worked in video for even 3 months, fundamentally understands that. Um, when we developed our first generation and then our second generation Quadra, which is what we're looking at here, we run all the benchmarks internally, right? And I actually had to argue a little bit with the team to not publish the real numbers. Now, normally, right? Let's just be honest, in technology, and oftentimes numbers are sort of like the best case is published, because like, oh, up to 50%, well, up to means like, yeah, in very special cases do you get, whatever that up to number is. Most of the time it's lower. In our case, I had to argue that the market would not believe that we were 90 to 95% more cost effective. So I said, gang, even though this is real, we have all the data to prove it. I'm going to say, from a marketing perspective, it's 80%. And of course, the engineers are like, what are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be marketing? Aren't you supposed to say up to 95%? I said, no one will believe it. So this is a funny story. So if you compare this pricing right here to standard cloud, go pick your public cloud of choice, whoever that may be. There's only 3 probably that you would look at. Maybe there's 4. And you compare a per stream for just say a 1080p 30 live encode HEVC. Don't even worry about AV1, just HEVC. If you do AV1, the economics get really favorable. It turns out that this is about a 90% cost reduction on OpEx over public cloud. And guess what? Our initial modeling was 90%. And I had to fight with the team and say, we can't publish that. No one will believe us. So let's do 80%. And even then they're not going to believe us, but it's a little more plausible. So I have to give that little story because when we saw your pricing, I reminded the team and everybody laughed and said, yeah, you're right, Mark. And also, guess what? It was 90%. And here Akamai is proving it. So well done.
That about echoes what we're hearing from our customers as well,
Yeah.
both in terms
Yeah.
of performance and looking at the price performance.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, this is just super disruptive. And it's what the market needs right now. I know that you're hearing this from customers. We hear it. Yes, quality still matters. Yes, it's not that there's a complete disregard for consumer experience, for video quality, et cetera. But make no mistake, we are no longer in the era of, we can pay whatever it takes to deliver a premium experience. That clearly is not the era that we're living in. And so the fact that together we're bringing 4K, we're bringing AV1, we're bringing HDR, we're bringing HEVC at a 90% cost reduction over the majority of the public cloud instances that are out there, that is truly disruptive, and really unlocks new value.
So this is our current deployment footprint. We have VPUs available for customers in our Los Angeles, Miami, Frankfurt expansion, Chennai, India, and Melbourne, Australia locations, and hopefully more locations coming soon. But we're really excited to have a real global footprint here with VPUs available for customers worldwide.
Yeah, our customers are excited about this too. So, and they can't wait for those blue dots to get filled in. It's the one thing about hardware is that hardware does take time, to ship and then do the installation and get, so there is a process. But I know that you, Akamai, are very focused on this rollout and expanding the footprint. So.
And part of our intention is really to understand where customers need more and then to respond to that demand in turn.
That's great. Yeah. Well, let's see a demo.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So what I would like to show you is what this looks like in our Cloud Manager. Cloud Manager is our graphical user interface for the Akamai Connected Cloud. And now you can go directly into the UI and provision one of these plans. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So right now, Los Angeles is one location where we have VPU plans available. So if you go and you navigate over to the Accelerated tab, you'll see that our NETINT plans are there for provisioning. Currently, these are marked at $0 a month, but that will change when we move to general availability at the end of the month. And like I mentioned, you have access to kind of all of that core Linode functionality. That includes things like VPCs, firewalls. You'll be able to configure it with your chosen distribution.
Very nice. Easy to configure. I like the user experience.
We really want to make it as easy as possible for our customers. Yeah. Of course, you can provision a VPU also through the API and CLI, but just Cloud Manager makes it so easy to go in and to, configure and then monitor those resources.
So easy. So I think one of the questions that I'm sure everyone has is this a dedicated instance, like only to me? Or is there someone else's traffic that would also be shared on the same card, on the same server? Maybe you can comment about that.
So the actual resources for the plan are 100% dedicated to the customer. That includes the virtual machine and the NETINT card or cards that are attached to that plan. The customer has direct access. The host or the server where that card is located may be shared among one or more guests, depending on the deployment numbers at that time.
Got it. Okay.
So generally speaking, customers should expect dedicated performance for these plans.
Sure. And the smallest unit of payment is an hour, or you're not doing like minute billing, or are you?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So
we start from an hourly billing.
Start from hourly. Okay.
Correct.
I mean, at those prices, 68 cents an hour for a 2-card system. It's unbelievable. We did the math, by the way, and it's roughly, I don't remember now the exact number, but it's around $550 for a 24/7, 1080p 30 stream for 3 years. That's what it translates to if you were just to look at it on a per stream cost. Now, that's not an ABR ladder. That would be just a single, single 1080p 30. But just for sake of, discussion, because, when you start talking about comparing HLS profiles and, it gets real nuanced as to what the cost is. But around $550 for 3 years. It is incredible. The economics. And by the way, that's AV1, HEVC, or H.264. So that would include AV1. There's no increase in cost for the more advanced codec.
That's right.
It's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing.
This is another.
I can't wait. This is. Let's look at so I like fast cars. So what you're about to show us are fast CPUs, right?
That's right. That's right. This is a little side-by-side test that we did internally looking at a VOD transcoding example on a VPU versus a CPU.
CPU.
And as you can see, the VPU process is actually already completed. At some point, I think
the CPU is still working. It's thinking.
We might just cut the demo because this is going to keep going and going and going. And as you can see, the VPU process, if you were leveraging a VPU, you would be done.
Yeah.
So for customers who are focused in just-in-time transcoding, I think, this is just, this is their best option. And we're really excited about having this as an available offering.
It's a great demo. And by the way, just to point out, I'm sure others caught this too. That's H.264, which is the best case on CPU.
Right.
Right. So if we were to compare with HEVC and then with AV1, it would be like watching paint dry.
Right.
So,
and it wouldn't have made for a very good demo.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really, really amazing. What else, can you give us some other insights into, we're in the beta phase now, just as I think we said at the beginning or, hinted at throughout, this video actually isn't going to be released until we're in GA. So some of the comments about this is the beta phase, just a matter of like 2 weeks roughly, and everything's going to be general availability. But I know that, for the last roughly about 6 months, there's been a very nice base of media and entertainment customers who are beginning to build and, who have been evaluating, and, many are using NetInt now, but they're going to be migrating to Akamai. I'm just curious if you can share some insights as to what the early feedback, where people are excited, if there's new services that are going to be unlocked as a result of this low cost and this availability on Akamai. What can you tell us?
Yeah, we've gotten some really great initial feedback from those early participants. One live streaming solution provider actually shared that they found they could achieve 30 concurrent live streams with an accelerated instance versus 2 or 4, depending on settings, concurrent live streams with their current preferred dedicated CPU infrastructure.
Yeah.
And that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I'll add another one, a video sharing platform that we work with, shared that they experience 4 times greater stream density compared to using one of our dedicated 96 gigabyte CPU plans, which, by the way, are quite a bit more expensive than
they're pricey.
They are,
yeah. And yet, I'm guessing that still it's much less than on the traditional public clouds, right? For that CPU compute instance.
Correct. So this just shows that, these days you really need that workload specificity in your deployment. So if you're focused on transcoding, you need a plan that is really optimized for transcoding.
That's right. Well, thank you for going through that information, showing us the demo. What are people going to see at NAB? I know you're going to be there. And so first of all, I want to welcome the listeners and invite the listeners and make sure you go talk to Akamai. Now, Akamai personnel will be in and out of the NetInt booth. We're actually going to be in the Akamai booth. So there's going to be a lot of cross pollination. But whether you come see us at NetInt and go to Akamai, you go to Akamai, one way or the other, come see us. But Sarah, what are you going to be talking to customers about? What can they see? Give a little sneak preview of.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting hands-on with some of our customers and understanding, I think, where they are today and where
Mhm.
we can meet in the middle and work together. I know we're going to be having a lot of customer conversations, doing some hands-on demos, and really just trying to kind of help customers maybe set up some initial deployments on the cloud.
That's great.
I know that there is a joint streaming summit presentation planned as well, with some of the leadership from Akamai, and we're going to be talking about our VPU work with some of, I think the NetInt customers as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up because for anybody who's attending Streaming Summit, you'll definitely not want to miss. It's on the first day. In fact, it's right after Dan's keynote. He always kicks off Streaming Summit with a keynote, sort of a state of the industry, covers a lot of great statistics and data and information about where we're at in the industry. But right after that is a joint presentation with Akamai, with NetInt, and with a mutual customer. And it's a pretty cool use case that is going to be showcased. It's a unique use case in many regards, but it's going to show the true hybrid implementation. There's a lot of talk about the hybrid cloud. And in theory, of course, it's sort of nirvana, right? But often in practical execution, it's really tough, especially with hardware, because you really need a duplication of the hardware you have on premise or in your private data center and the hardware it's in the cloud. Well, now for the first time, that's, at least if someone's using VPU, that's possible. You can get an exact duplication of the VPU in the cloud on Akamai that you might be running on premise. And so that's going to be, presented and talked about. So I think there's going to be a lot of interest, in.
Yeah. I mean, in addition to that real like hybrid cloud use case, I know a lot of our customers, our mutual customers, are really excited about having Akamai as an option for kind of burst capacity,
That's right.
for those event based opportunities that today they haven't had the infrastructure to take advantage of.
Yeah. There is going to be so much news, to cover between what our two companies are doing together. I know that we already have some of these large customers who are, have expressed interest in talking about what they're doing, but just need to get a little further down the road in their, in their implementations. But that's coming. So thank you for joining Voices of Video, Sarah. It was really awesome to have you on.
Thank you for having me, Mark. It was a pleasure, and I've really enjoyed working with the NetInt team, I have to say.
Awesome. Well, we feel the same. So Akamai is a very important and valued partner. So yeah. So once more, if you are coming to NAB, make sure that you get a meeting with Akamai. Come see us, of course, but really go talk to the Akamai folks. Meet Sarah, meet the team, the rest of the key folks who are part of putting all this together. In the product team and product management, product marketing, they're going to be there. So, go get a meeting with them, and you're definitely going to want to spend some time to learn more and, hopefully adopt NetInt VPUs in your workflow running on Akamai. So, with that, we're 3 weeks away from NAB. Everybody travel safe, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much again, Mark. Take care.